Hi again. Following on from my last video where I talked about employer branding, I wanted to talk about the next step in your recruitment process, which is your recruitment strategy. You've identified some candidates, they've shown an interest in the roles that you're currently hiring, and you've invited them for interview. What do you do next? How do you interview? Do you even have a recruitment strategy? So first of all, let's think about why having a recruitment strategy is important. It's possible you've been hiring for years without having a recruitment strategy. Have you been hiring the best people? Have you been doing it the most streamlined way possible? Let's have a look. So the first thing that you need to think about is your candidate experience. So you're obviously inviting these people in because you think there's a potential that they're going to be suitable for a role that you're hiring. If you are going to make them an offer, you need to make sure that they're going to accept that offer. So they need to have a very smooth transition throughout the interview process. Ideally, they need to have one point of contact throughout that process. Obviously, they're going to meet multiple people throughout the interviews, but they need to have that one consistent point of contact throughout. So arranging the interviews with them, maybe even talking to them at the end of each interview, especially face to face. That's really important. It makes sure that they're psychologically engaged with that one person, they've got a connection to the company, and hopefully they're going to accept your offer at the end of the interview process. The next thing is you need to think about, why are we hiring this role? What information do we actually need to get out of these people in order for us to say, yes, this is the person or these are the people that we're going to hire? So you need to sit down with your hiring manager, actually profile the role that you're currently hiring. No two roles are the same, even if you're hiring, for example, two software developers, even within the same team, you're still going to need a slightly different mix of skill sets there. So profile each and every role. Try not to do generic software developer roles. No, this person needs to sit within this team. What skills and also qualities, because cultural fit is just as important as the skill set. What qualities and skills do we need from this person in this specific role? The next thing is you need to think about your interviewer time. So interviewers generally don't want to be interviewing. It's not what they're being paid to do. It's not what their job is. It's come as part of usually a managerial role. So their time is really valuable, really important, and they don't want to be doing interviewing. So how can we shorten the amount of time that they're actually spending interviewing? It's another thing that we really need to think about, and a good reason why it's important to have a recruitment strategy. So let's move on to how we actually achieve these things. So good candidate experience, getting the information that we need from these candidates, and also what information we're actually giving to these candidates. That's just as important. And finally, how do we reduce the amount of time that our interviewers are actually spending interviewing? How can we make them happier in their jobs and also more productive by being at their desk doing what they want to do? So, like I said, how do we do this? First thing is, we've already touched on this, profile the roles. We really need to have an understanding of why we're hiring this role, what it is we're looking for from the candidate that's going to fill this position. Secondly, what are your interview processes and what are the steps throughout your process? Do you have a telephone interview? How many rounds of face-to-face interview do you have? Are you doing any kind of assessment, whether that be technical, psychometric, and are they necessary? Also, lots of companies will set up generally technical assessments, and they'll have been in place for years and years. Are they still relevant to the work that you're doing, particularly in software and technology, which is where I spend most of my time? After a year or two, the tests and assessments that companies are running are no longer relevant. We need to keep them refreshed, updated, and ensuring that we're getting the most out of candidates when we're asking them to do these assessments. One thing I see time and time again is people have been asked to interview and they haven't been given any training. They generally don't want to do it, they feel uncomfortable doing it. Please, please, please train your interviewers. This will only help both you as an organisation get the most out of your candidates in your interviews, but also your interviewers will be much more comfortable, you'll improve your candidate experience, and you'll get better results. You'll save time by training your interviewers, because the interviewers inherently like to give the benefit of the doubt. And if they're trained exactly what they're looking for and also what they can and can't say to candidates from a HR perspective, you'll get much more out of your interviews. For example, for clients in the past, we've actually managed to reduce the amount of time spent interviewing per offer made by 8 hours. Over the course of a year, that's 26 days that these interviewers are sat back at their desks actually doing the work that they want to and the organisation needs them to do, which means it can reduce your need to actually hire. If your current employees are being more effective and performing at a higher rate, then perhaps there's not such a need to hire. Also, on the interviewer training point, you need to make sure you're getting consistent feedback. Generally, if companies are hiring at a high level, there will be multiple people conducting interviews. Are all of these people interviewing on the same scale? Are some people giving benefit of the doubt when others are perhaps being a bit more stringent? Part of the interviewer training should be how to give feedback and keeping a consistency to make sure that all candidates are being treated fairly. And finally, what does your candidate need to know about the role? Obviously, you're going to be on a sales pitch. You want to show them all of the good things about working for your organisation, all the good things about the role. But every role has its negatives. What are those negatives? We really need to put some of these negatives across, just to make sure that the candidate isn't going to turn up with rose-tinted glasses on the first day, and after about a month or two in the role, realise that actually it wasn't as rosy as it was perhaps sold to them to be. So we need to make sure that they have a realistic view of what the role is going to be and how it's going to pan out in the long run. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you think future videos will be worthwhile. And any suggestions for future videos, anything you want to know, anything you feel you need help with throughout any part of your recruitment strategy, please send me a message, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help. Thanks.